In the age of the freak athlete quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa is proving that those who don't have unique physical traits can still succeed under center. And he isn't just succeeding, he's dominating. Through 3 games, Tua is averaging 10.1 yards per attempt, which is the best among starting quarterbacks by 2 full yards. He's also completing 70% of his passes and leading the league in passer rating by a wide margin. The Dolphins have played a couple of pretty bad defenses so far this season. But numbers-wise, Tua is coming off one of the best 3-game stretches we've seen from a quarterback in the past decade, which is noteworthy no matter who you're going up against. I've watched every snap Tua's taken since he was drafted 3 years ago, and he was really good in the first half of last season. But what we're seeing right now is just different. The key to everything the Dolphins do on offense is speed. According to Next Gen Stats, all of the top 5 fastest ball carriers so far in 2023 play for Miami, and Jalen Waddle isn't even up there. They have the 2 fastest receivers in the league, along with a couple more burners at running back in Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Tua obviously can't run like the rest of those guys, but he is extraordinarily fast as well, just in a different way. This play from back in week 1 against the Chargers should give you an idea of what I mean. Miami came out in a 2x2 set with 2 receivers on each side of the ball, but at the snap they sent the tight end in motion to create a 3x1 look, and the late motion forced the defense to slightly alter their coverage structure. LA is in a quarter-half coverage here, and this variation is known as cover 8 in Fangio terminology. It calls for cover 2 to the strong side and quarters to the weak side, which, based on this pre-snap look, would mean halves up top and quarters down low. However, Miami flipped the strength of the formation when they sent Durham Smythe in motion pre-snap, which also flipped LA's coverage call. Now, because the passing strength is to the right, the Chargers will play halves to that side with quarters up top. Brandon Staley loves to call cover 8, so Tua is expecting it, and that knowledge allows for an extremely efficient post-snap process. After taking the snap, Tua shoots his eyes to the strong side wide corner. The squat technique from that defensive back tells Tua that LA is in cover 2 to that side of the formation. Once the coverage is confirmed, he keys Jalen Waddle to hold the nickel, then rips one through a tight window to Tyreek Hill on a 7-step post, all in about 2 seconds. The timing of this ball was perfect. If he had thrown it just a tick later, he would have allowed the linebacker to make a play on it. But because he was able to process the coverage call, hold the nickel, and deliver an accurate ball downfield all in just 2 seconds, the play went for a massive gain. On quarters calls against 3x1 sets like this, the weak side safety is coached to play what's known as tricks technique in Fangio terminology, which makes him responsible for the trip side number 3 receiver on anything vertical. If the number 3 doesn't go vertical, the weak side safety will play the deep middle quarter to his side with eyes on the quarterback. So here, Derwin James wasn't much of a factor in covering the concept because number 3 did not go vertical. A few minutes later, Miami got another quarters look from the defense and called a concept specifically designed to take advantage of the backside safety in tricks technique. Miami came out in another 2x2 set pre-snap, but again sent the tight end in motion to create a 3x1 look up top. That put Derwin James in tricks technique, and I want you to watch how Tua used his eyes to take James out of the play completely. With no vertical from number 3, James was once again covering the deep middle quarter with his eyes on the quarterback. But Tua's eyes told James that he was going to target the opposite side of the field. That held James at a depth of about 15 yards, rendering him unable to cover Tyreek Hill's go route. If Tua's eyes shot right to Hill upon taking the snap, Derwin James is running full speed at the back pylon to take this away. And if Tua holds onto it for too long, the pass rush has a chance to get home. Tua is super quick with his eyes, which allows him to pick apart zone match coverages without holding onto the ball. He's averaging just 2.2 seconds from snap to throw through 3 games, and still has an average depth of target of 9.6 yards. His time to throw is the fastest among starting quarterbacks by a wide margin, and his average depth of target ranks 4th highest in the league. So he's pushing the ball downfield, executing full progressions, but still letting go of it extremely fast. Now, we already knew that Tua was elite within structure, but the timing and anticipation he displayed in this Week 1 game against LA is some of the best I've ever seen. And his dominance was not limited to early structure within the pocket like it has been in the past. On this key third down from late in that same game against LA, the Chargers did a really nice job of disguising their coverage pre-snap. They rotate from what looks like quarter half into a drop 8 cover 3 double buzz, which tells Derwin James to play the post, and the 2 deep safeties to occupy the intermediate middle of the field. Miami called a switch concept on the top half of your screen, which tells the number 1 to run a 5-step in-breaker and the number 2 to run a wheel route. Tua sees this 2-high safety shell and outside leverage from the wide corner up top lined up opposite Jalen Waddle, and he knows that Hill will force the nickel to vacate the middle of the field. So that's where his eyes go post-snap. But because the deep safety to that side crept into the intermediate middle, and because Waddle lost his footing at the break, he wasn't an option. But Tua didn't panic. He stepped up to avoid the pass rush and dropped a perfect ball into Hill's hands deep downfield while moving forward. Doing this from a moving platform is not normal. This was one of the best, if not the best throw of Tua's young career, and it came on a 3rd and long when Miami was down by 4. If that doesn't scream franchise quarterback, I don't know what does. The other thing to note here is Tua's poise inside the pocket. Considering how much this guy has struggled to stay healthy, the comfort with which he operates as the pass rush closes in is remarkable. This trait showed up in week 2 against New England as well. Here, Miami called a verticals concept to the 3 receiver side of this empty set, and New England made a late adjustment to all-out cover 0, which calls for man coverage across the board with 6 defenders rushing the quarterback. Miami called short motion from Tyreek Hill here, which opened up the middle of the field. Assuming the weak side safety is held down by the number 2 receiver to that side, the tight end should have a leverage advantage over Kyle Duggar as the new number 3 to the strong side. But post-snap, the weak side number 2, Alec Ingold, stays in to protect, which allows the weak side safety to bracket the tight end down the seam. Tua feels the pressure as he checks off, but he doesn't panic and leave the pocket. He stays calm and progresses to Braxton Berrios on his whip wheel route and delivers a pinpoint perfect ball from a moving platform. Tua was already a demon when he could get the ball out quickly last season, but there was a drop-off in his performance when he was forced to hold onto the ball for more than 2.5 seconds. Last year, when throwing in under 2.5 seconds, Tua threw 15 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions and ranked first in both yards per attempt and passer rating. But when holding onto the ball for more than 2.5 seconds, he threw 10 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, ranked 2nd in yards per attempt, and 5th in passer rating. Don't get me wrong, he was still very good when he held onto the ball last year, but he was without a doubt better when he could let go of it quickly within structure. This year, that isn't the case. Through 3 games, when holding onto the ball for more than 2.5 seconds, Tua's completion percentage is over 72%, up 12% from last season. His average yards per attempt is 13 yards, up 4 whole yards from last season, and his passer rating is 119.8, up 25 from last season. Oh, and he leads starters in both completion percentage and yards per attempt under the aforementioned circumstances. In the current climate of the NFL, Tua is inherently limited by his lack of physical gifts, but he more than makes up for his athletic shortcomings with the mental processing, poise, and timing he brings to every single snap. I mean, just look at this play from last week against Denver. The Dolphins went trips against a cover 5 call from the Broncos here, and Tua wants to target the isolated X receiver on a 5-step in-breaker. Look at where River Craycraft is when Tua lets go of this ball. He hasn't even started to break, and by the time he turns to look for the ball, it's already halfway there. Mike McDaniel has tailored this Dolphins offense to fit Tua's strengths, and Miami probably has the best receiving core in the league. So Tua definitely has an easy job relative to the rest of the league's starting quarterbacks. But a great throw is a great throw, and I don't think anybody is producing great throws more consistently than Tua right now. This dude has been in the lab, and it is paying off big time. This week, the Dolphins have their biggest challenge yet. Buffalo's defense is better than anybody they've played so far, especially up front. The Bills fan in me has me taking my guys at home, but Tua in this Dolphins offense is going to make that extraordinarily difficult. As much as I hate a division rival, it has been an absolute pleasure to watch Tua grow into the quarterback he is today. Above all, I'm a fan of good football, and watching a player rise above the criticism, the injuries, all the adversity that's been thrown his way will never get old. If you'd like to support the channel, you can check out my Patreon and Twitter, both of which will be linked in the description. But that's all I've got for today, so until next time, go Bills!